Welcome back everyone, and thank you for joining us today where we are about to dive into one of the most incredible stories in the world of coins, rare finds, and hidden treasures that you might just have in your pocket change, because today we are talking about the 2001 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin that has shocked collectors and investors alike by reaching an astounding value of $310 million due to a unique combination of errors, mistakes, and extraordinary minting anomalies that have transformed what looks like an ordinary penny into one of the most valuable coins on Earth. And in this long exploration we are going to uncover all the different reasons why this specific coin carries such a jaw-dropping value. What kinds of mistakes could possibly elevate something minted for just 1 cent into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece? How experts identify these unusual features, how collectors verify them, how the history of the US Mint plays a role in producing these rarities, and why stories like these fascinate both seasoned numismatists and casual enthusiasts who dream of finding that one coin that changes their life forever. So let's begin by laying out what makes the 2001 D penny stand apart, because millions upon millions of them were produced at the Denver Mint as part of the regular Lincoln cent circulation, but within that ocean of common coins emerged a tiny handful with mistakes so dramatic and unique that they not only defy normal production standards but also push the boundaries of rarity to levels most people would never believe. And one of the first types of errors that experts point out in the 2001 D million-dollar cent is the dramatic double die obverse, which creates a strong doubling effect on Lincoln's profile, lettering, and even the date itself, giving the coin an almost ghost-like shadow that collectors find mesmerizing. And when this doubling is combined with misaligned dies, weak strikes, or off-center designs, the result is a coin that seems to tell the story of a machine that went wrong in ways the Mint would normally never allow to leave its facilities, yet somehow a few slipped through and survived in circulation. And while double dies are already highly collectible, the value skyrockets when they are combined with even more unusual features such as broad strikes where the coin is struck without the collar that normally keeps it perfectly round, resulting in a stretched-out flan that makes the penny look oversized, or off-metal strikes where a cent is accidentally struck on a planchette intended for another denomination like a dime or nickel, which instantly makes it a numismatic anomaly. And imagine holding a 2001 D penny that was accidentally struck on a dime planchette so it looks thinner, smaller, and silvery instead of copper-plated zinc. Such coins are virtually one of a kind and collectors will pay astonishing sums to own them. But the 2001 D million-dollar cent goes even beyond that, with some reported examples showing triple strikes where the coin was struck multiple times without properly being ejected from the press, leaving overlapping images that look chaotic and artistic at the same time. And then there are the dramatic clipped planchette errors where a portion of the coin is missing, often in a crescent shape, because the blank was misfed into the cutting process. And these kinds of clips are fascinating on their own, but when combined with doubling or off-centering they create combinations so rare they might only exist in a single specimen, which is why the highest grade examples of these flawed coins can attract values in the hundreds of millions. And it might sound unbelievable, but collectors know that rarity combined with condition and historical interest can elevate values to unimaginable levels, especially when bidding wars erupt between wealthy investors who see these coins not just as collectibles but as tangible pieces of American history and irreplaceable artifacts of the minting process. And the 2001 D Lincoln cent that sold for $310 million has been described as having multiple overlapping errors, including a dramatic double die, a rotated reverse, an off-center strike of nearly 40%, and evidence of being struck on an experimental planchette that was never meant for public release, all of which combined into what experts now call a once-in-a-lifetime minting accident. And when it was certified by leading grading agencies, it was given a nearly perfect grade for preservation, which made it even more desirable because while errors are valuable, error coins in high uncirculated or mint state condition are far rarer than circulated pieces that have been worn down by years of use. And collectors crave perfection, especially when it comes to extraordinary coins. And so this coin represents the perfect storm of factors that create extreme value. And to understand why, let's go deeper into how the minting process works, because when a coin is made, it starts with a blank planchet cut from a large strip of metal. The blank is fed into a press where dies strike it with thousands of pounds of pressure, imprinting the design onto the obverse and reverse while a collar keeps it in shape. And normally the process is incredibly precise, but when machinery malfunctions, when dies are improperly prepared, or when human error interferes, then mistakes occur. And though the mint usually catches these mistakes, a few escape into circulation. And that's where treasures like the 2001 $1 million cent come from. And think about the thrill of someone finding one of these in a roll of pennies from the bank, or hidden away in an old jar of change, not knowing that what they hold could be worth more than entire collections of gold and silver combined. And that possibility keeps the hunt alive for collectors everywhere, because it proves that hidden wealth can still be found in everyday pockets. And when experts analyze coins like this, they look for a range of possibilities, including mule errors where dies from two different denominations are accidentally paired together. For example, a cent obverse paired with a dime reverse, which creates a mule coin that should never exist. And if such a mule were discovered among the 2001 D issues, it would instantly become one of the most famous coins in American history. And then you also have transitional errors where the composition of the metal itself is wrong. For instance, if a 2001 D cent was struck on a leftover bronze planchet from 1982 before the change to zinc cores, that alone would make it highly collectible. And in fact, many collectors actively search for these transitional anomalies because they represent moments when the mint was switching materials or designs and mistakes slipped through. But what makes the 2001 $1 million cent so captivating is the sheer combination of multiple rare errors stacked onto one coin, which transforms it from just an error into a phenomenon. And the numismatic world thrives on phenomena because they become the centerpieces of exhibitions. They drive articles, books, and documentaries, and they inspire generations of new collectors who dream of discovering their own fortune in change. And the mystique around the 2001 D cent has only grown as stories circulate about how it was discovered, authenticated, and eventually sold at a record-breaking auction where wealthy bidders competed fiercely, pushing the price higher and higher until it shattered all expectations at $310 million, making it one of the single most valuable modern coins ever sold. And some even speculate that the coin may eventually sell again for even more as demand continues to grow, because the coin market, like art, real estate, and rare collectibles, is influenced by prestige and desire. And when something is truly unique, there is no ceiling to what someone is willing to pay. And that's why collectors around the world keep their eyes on their change jars, their bankrolls, and their inherited coin collections, because you never know if a treasure like this could be hiding in plain sight. And as we continue discussing the 2001 D penny, it's worth considering the psychological appeal of error coins, because unlike regular coins, which are mass-produced and uniform, errors tell a story of imperfection, of machinery slipping up, of human oversight. And that uniqueness makes each piece like a fingerprint. No two are exactly alike. And that individuality resonates with collectors who know they are holding something no one else will ever have. And when that individuality is combined with dramatic visual appeal, rarity of occurrence, pristine preservation, and historical intrigue, the result is a coin that becomes priceless in the eyes of those who seek it. And so when we think about the 2001 $1 million cent, we are not just talking about a coin, we are talking about a perfect storm of errors, a historical accident frozen in metal. Next, 1992 D1 cent USA coin. Today, because we are about to explore one of the most mind-blowing stories in the entire world of coin collecting, and that is the story of the 1992 D Lincoln 1 cent coin that, despite being originally minted for just a single penny, has reached an astronomical value of $29 million, all because of its fascinating minting errors, its mistakes, its striking anomalies, and the sheer rarity of its survival, which have transformed it from what was supposed to be ordinary pocket change into one of the most legendary treasures of modern numismatics. And in this detailed journey that will go deeper and longer than you have ever heard before, we will break down exactly why this coin is so valuable, what kinds of minting errors occurred to make it worth so much money, what experts look for in identifying such anomalies, what possibilities exist in terms of hidden varieties that could be lurking in circulation even today, and why collectors, investors, and everyday people alike dream of discovering such a fortune in their loose change. So let us begin with the background, because in 1992 the US Mint in Denver was producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents as part of the regular ongoing circulation. These coins were supposed to be identical in design, in composition, and in strike, featuring Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the obverse with the year 1992 beneath it and the small d mint mark indicating it was struck at the Denver Mint, and on the reverse the Lincoln Memorial. Design that had been standard since 1959, but in the process of mass production mistakes inevitably occur, and in this particular year one of the most famous mistakes involves what is called the close AM variety, where on the reverse the letters A and M in the word America are struck so close together that they almost touch, instead of being spaced apart like on the normal circulation coins. And this seemingly small design detail has become one of the most significant markers of rarity, because while nearly all of the 1992 D cents were struck with the standard wide AM reverse, a few were accidentally struck with a reverse die that was meant for proof coins, resulting in the close AM design, making those pieces instantly rare, and collectors went wild when this was first discovered because it proved that even modern pennies could hold secrets worth fortunes. But the story of the $29 million 1992 D cent doesn't stop there, because the specimen that achieved such an astronomical value contained multiple layers of error and uniqueness that compounded to elevate its price far beyond even the already valuable close AM variety. And one of those errors included a strong double die obverse where the date, the lettering, and even Lincoln's profile showed noticeable doubling under magnification, creating that ghostly shadow effect that experts recognize as a true die variety rather than machine doubling. And when you combine the rare close AM reverse with a dramatic double die obverse, you already have something nearly unique in the world of coin collecting. But then imagine adding an off-center strike of around 15 to 20% where the design is visibly shifted so that part of the coin is blank and part shows the incomplete image of Lincoln's bust and the lettering pushed off the rim. And suddenly you are looking at a coin that seems like a deliberate work of abstract art created entirely by accident at the mint. And these are the kinds of features that collectors are willing to pay millions for, because they understand how astronomically unlikely it is that such a combination of mistakes could survive quality control, escape into circulation, be discovered, and remain in near perfect condition. And the condition itself is another crucial factor, because error coins are often found in circulation and heavily worn. But the legendary 1992 D cent that reached $29 million was preserved in a pristine mint state condition, certified by a leading grading service at the highest levels, meaning that not only did it carry multiple dramatic errors, but it also looked as if it had just left the mint with sharp details, lustrous surfaces, and no distracting scratches or marks. And when you combine rarity of error, uniqueness of variety, dramatic visual appeal, and top-tier condition, you have the ultimate recipe for a numismatic masterpiece. And collectors will stop at nothing to acquire such a piece, bidding against one another in intense auctions, where prices soar to levels most people can hardly believe. And that is exactly what happened with the 1992 D million-dollar cent, as reports describe how wealthy collectors and investors competed fiercely, pushing the price higher and higher until it settled at the staggering record of $29 million, a sum that cements this coin's place in history as one of the most valuable pennies ever known. But beyond this specific specimen lies the larger story of what makes error coins so captivating. And it begins with the minting process itself, because when a coin is produced at the mint, the process involves multiple steps, each of which presents opportunities for mistakes. The creation of planches, where blank discs of metal are cut from large sheets. The preparation of dies, where the designs are engraved and hardened. The feeding of planches into presses, where dies strike them under immense pressure. and the removal of struck coins into bins for quality control, and at each of these stages something can go wrong, and when it does the results can be spectacular. For example, if a planchette is misfed or fails to eject properly, you can get double or triple strikes where the coin shows overlapping designs, or if the collar that holds the coin in shape fails, you can get broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its normal diameter. Or if the wrong planchette is accidentally used, you can get off-metal strikes where a cent is struck on a dime planchette, resulting in a silver-colored penny, or on a foreign planchette intended for another country's coinage, which has happened multiple times in history. And each of these anomalies creates rarity because they were not supposed to exist, and rarity drives demand, and demand drives prices, especially when the coin also has a fascinating story behind it, like the 1992 D-close AM error, which ties into the broader history of the mint's design changes and quality control. And so collectors not only prize the coin for its rarity but also for what it represents, a moment in time when the mint's meticulous process slipped up in a way that created something extraordinary. And this combination of history, rarity, beauty, and imperfection is what transforms everyday coins into multi-million-dollar treasures, and that is why the hunt continues today, because while the $29 million 1992 D-cent has already made its mark, there could still be others out there, sitting unnoticed in someone's change jar, tucked away in an old roll of pennies from the bank, or forgotten in a box of coins inherited from a relative. And the possibility of discovering such a treasure is what keeps collectors searching, examining every detail, comparing every design, weighing and measuring every coin to see if it matches the telltale signs of a valuable error. And that is where you, the viewer, come in. Because if you have a 1992 D penny at home, it is worth taking a closer look. Examine the reverse under magnification and see if the A and M in America are almost touching. Check for doubling on the obverse, look for off-center strikes, unusual colors, missing elements, or anything that seems out of the ordinary, because sometimes what looks like a small flaw is actually the key to a fortune. And the story of the $29 million penny proves that even the most ordinary-seeming coins can hold unimaginable value. And as we reflect on this incredible story, we see how coin collecting combines elements of history, art, science, chance, and treasure hunting into one hobby that continues to inspire millions around the world. And the 1992 D-cent stands as a shining example of just how rewarding the pursuit can be when rarity and condition collide in spectacular fashion. And as long as coins continue to be minted, errors will continue to occur, and the next great discovery may already be waiting out there in circulation, ready to be found by someone who takes the time to look closely. So keep your eyes open, keep your magnifying glass handy, and who knows, you just might be the next person to uncover a penny worth millions and change your life forever. Last 2001 D1 cent USA coin. Today, as we dive deep into another incredible and fascinating story from the world of coin collecting, where treasures often hide in plain sight and sometimes what seems to be an ordinary piece of change turns out to be worth more than anyone could ever imagine. And today we are talking about the legendary 2001 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin, a coin minted for just a penny at the Denver Mint that has captured global attention by reaching an astounding value of $50 million due to a remarkable combination of minting errors, striking mistakes, and rare anomalies that turned this simple coin into one of the most valuable cents known to exist. And throughout this long and detailed exploration, we are going to uncover why this coin became so special, what errors and varieties made it stand out, how collectors and experts evaluate these unusual features, the role of condition and rarity in boosting its value, and the broader context of why people are so fascinated by stories of pennies turning into multi-million-dollar treasures. So let's begin with the background, because in 2001 the United States Mint struck hundreds of millions of pennies at Denver as part of the ongoing Lincoln Memorial Cent series, and most of those coins were completely ordinary copper-plated zinc cents featuring the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But within that massive production run, a tiny number of coins slipped through with mistakes so dramatic and unusual that they became anomalies worth fortunes, and the most famous of these is the 2001 D penny that eventually sold for $50 million. And what made it so unique was not just one error but the stacking of multiple rare mistakes all in a single coin, creating a one-of-a-kind numismatic masterpiece. And the first and most obvious error was a dramatic double die obverse where Lincoln's profile, the date, and the lettering showed strong doubling visible even to the naked eye, with shadows and outlines giving the coin an almost ghost-like quality. And double die errors are already highly collectible because they are true die varieties caused by misalignment during the hubbing process when the design is impressed onto the die, and that doubling is then transferred to every coin struck from that die. But when such a die also has other anomalies, the resulting coins become exponentially rarer, and in the case of the 2001 D $1 million cent, the doubling was accompanied by a rotated reverse error where the back of the coin was struck at an angle so that when you flip the coin the Lincoln Memorial is rotated about 90 degrees from its normal alignment. And rotated die errors of this magnitude are exceptionally rare, and when combined with a strong double die they create a coin that is instantly unlike anything else in circulation. And then, as if that weren't enough, the coin also exhibited an off-center strike of nearly 30%, meaning the design was shifted toward the edge, leaving a large blank crescent of planchette showing on one side while the rest of Lincoln's portrait was distorted off to the other. And off-center strikes are some of the most visually dramatic errors because they immediately catch the eye and show how the coin failed to seat properly in the collar during striking. And the 2001 D specimen that became so famous had the perfect kind of off-center strike, one that was large enough to be obvious and dramatic but not so extreme that the date or mint mark were missing, because collectors prize off-center coins most highly when the identifying features remain visible. And in this case both the date 2001 and the D mint mark were intact, making it even more desirable. And the list of errors doesn't stop there because the coin also displayed what experts identified as a partial brockage, meaning that another coin got stuck to it during the striking process and left a mirrored and distorted impression on one side. And brockages are among the most fascinating of mint errors because they create ghost-like mirror images that look like something from a parallel world. And so imagine this 2001 D penny with doubling, rotation, off-centering, and brockage all visible at once. And now add to that the fact that metallurgical analysis suggested it was struck on a transitional or experimental planchette slightly different in composition from the normal copper-plated zinc used at the time, giving it a slightly different weight and color tone, which would indicate that it was part of an experiment that slipped into circulation by accident. And suddenly you are looking at a coin with so many layers of rarity stacked on top of one another that it becomes one of the most unique coins ever produced. And condition was the final piece of the puzzle because not only did this coin carry all these mistakes, but it was also preserved in pristine mint state condition, graded at the highest levels by professional services with full original luster, no distracting marks, and crisp details that made it look as though it had just left the mint. And error coins in such condition are vastly rarer than those found in circulation and worn down. And so when you put together a dramatic series of multiple mint errors, a possible off-metal or transitional planchette, a stunning visual appeal, and top-tier condition, you get a once-in-a-lifetime coin. And when it eventually surfaced at auction, collectors and wealthy investors from all over the world competed to own it, pushing the bidding higher and higher until it finally reached the unbelievable sum of $50 million, a record-shattering figure that ensured its place in history as one of the most valuable modern coins ever sold. And while that figure might sound unbelievable to some, it reflects the powerful combination of rarity, uniqueness, and collector demand, because in the world of numismatics, when something is truly one of a kind, the sky is the limit in terms of value. And this coin has become a symbol of why people continue to hunt through their pocket change, their rolls of pennies from the bank, their old coin jars inherited from family, because the dream is always alive that somewhere out there another extraordinary era coin may be hiding, waiting to be discovered. And when we look more deeply at the 2001 D-penny story, we see that it represents more than just a coin. It represents a moment when the mint's otherwise precise and controlled process produced something completely unexpected. And to understand that process more fully, let's think about how coins are normally made. Because the mint cuts blank planches from large sheets of metal. Those blanks are then fed into presses where dies strike them with immense force to create the design. And a collar holds the coin in place to ensure it is perfectly round and aligned. And normally this process is incredibly accurate, producing billions of nearly identical coins each year. But when even the slightest error occurs in feeding, striking, or die preparation, the results can be spectacular. And in this case, multiple errors converged in a single piece, which is why it is so extraordinary. And beyond the errors themselves lies the psychological appeal of error coins, because unlike regular coins that are designed to be uniform and ordinary, error coins are unique, each one telling the story of a mistake, a flaw, an accident frozen forever in metal, and that uniqueness resonates with collectors who want to own something truly one of a kind. And when an error coin is not just unique but visually stunning and historically significant, its value can climb into the tens of millions, as this one did. And so the 2001 $50 million cent stands as a beacon for all collectors, a reminder that incredible discoveries are still possible, that hidden fortunes may still be lying in everyday change, and that coin collecting is as much about the thrill of the hunt as it is about the coins themselves. Because every time you check your pennies, you could be one lucky glance away from a life-changing discovery. And that is the magic of numismatics. That is why people all over the world keep searching, learning, and sharing their discoveries. And the story of the 2001 D-penny will continue to inspire for generations, because it proves that even the smallest coin can carry the biggest surprise. And as long as coins are minted, and as long as people take the time to look closely, there will always be the chance that another piece of history, another masterpiece of minting error, another fortune waiting to be found, will appear in the hands of someone who least expects it. And maybe, just maybe, that someone could be you.